They appeared along the southeastern coast, a group of shallow islands that rose from the receding waters of the Ice Age. Fragile bits of land anchored by tenacious grasses and pebbles, the islands moved constantly with the roil of the tides and the violent storms that buffeted the coast. Over time, the islands began to form themselves as the plants and shrubs took hold. They would continue moving to the west, changing their shape, always searching for a place of permanence. Dotted with swamps, marshes, and bogs, and tempered by the sea breezes and the hot, humid air, the islands were rich with flora and wildlife. Corn, pumpkins, and beans grew in profusion in the peculiar mixture of sand, silt, clay, and natural matter. Wild grapes hung from the boughs of the great oaks, and walnuts and pecans rained down when the warm breezes blew through. Huge herds of white-tailed deer roamed the coastal lands, while black bear stalked the swamplands and wild turkeys sounded their warnings from the lush underbrush. The waters, both fresh and salt, abounded with mullet, brim, rock shrimp, spots, oysters, and crab. Then, as always, following the trail of wildlife came the ancient people. At first, they fled the raids of the north. Then they sought the warmer climes and the gentler breezes. When they came upon this land of abundance, they gave praise and offered tribute to Mother Earth for her kindness and generosity. Settling along the shores, they called their new home Chicora. It was the first of many names that this land would have. Each tribe that settled the land would give the islands other names: San Miguel, Guadalupe, Gaul, Chiraw, Edisto, Johns, St. Helena, Dawfuskee, Kiowa, Wadmalaw. By the time the African captives arrived, the land would be known as the Sea Islands. It would not be the land of refuge for these people, for they had not come willingly. Herded onto the ships that would transport them across the Atlantic Ocean, the peoples of West Africa, stolen from Gambia, Angola, Benin, Sierra Leone, Niger, and the Gold Coast, would arrive in Charleston, South Carolina, destined for the harsh work on plantations throughout the South. For some, the trip would be even longer, to the far reaches of Texas. For others, it would be a short trip down the coast to the rice and cotton plantations of the Sea Islands. For most, it would be the last trip of their lives. They would spend their entire lives on the islands, laboring from day clean to day done. Clearing the land, dredging the swamps, building the houses, planting the seed, and harvesting the crops. They would rarely see their white masters, who had long since quit to the mainland, escaping the heavy, humid air, the sulphurous swamps, the poisonous snakes, and the black swarms of mosquitoes that brought the plague of malaria. It would be a severe life, but left to their own means, they would survive and thrive, raising their families, praying to their gods, holding sacred the ways of the lands from which they had come. They would trade, share, and learn from the ancient people who still walked the islands. And from this blending of old and new came the unique culture and tongue known as Gullah or Geechee.